everyone. This is Will with Mortgage Heroes, and we have a special guest, Alan Enochs.
So today we're going to talk to Alan a little bit about his career, how he got here, what it is he's doing now, some interesting, fun stories. So now that, introducing this whole new show, we're talking to people who are in and around real estate. We talk about mortgage and the market and economics and all that all the time, but we want to get other people's perspectives and also some interesting things that happen third party and around real estate. So Alan, give us a little, breakdown, give us your bio a little bit, kind of how'd you end up where you are, what do you do, and catch everyone up.
Well, I'll start with what I do, and then I'll explain how I got here. I'm a real estate lawyer. I practice in the area of real estate litigation. We primarily represent real estate entrepreneurs, investors, as well as lenders. We represent private money lenders in foreclosure matters. We represent institutional lenders in foreclosure matters as well. That's largely what we do. On the investor side, we represent people that are buying properties to hold for income. We represent buyers who are looking to fix and flip all different types of properties, whether it be single family, multifamily, retail, office, or what have you. And our niche client base, to a large extent, are people that are looking for properties that have problems.
Nice.
And then they use those problems as an instrument to negotiate the seller down on price, and then they take on the risk of solving those problems. And those problems are oftentimes legal related. Wow. And so, as you might imagine. And so we see quite a bit. And so that's what we do. Now, I was never planning on being a lawyer. It was the furthest thing from my mind. It was just not in the cards for me when I was in college. In college, I studied business. I studied accounting, finance, economics. I had ambition of becoming a banker, and I did. After I graduated college, I went into banking.
Wow.
But this was back in 1990. I'm dating myself, but back in 1990, we got hit with that S&L crisis, the savings and loan crisis. So there were a lot of bankers hitting the streets looking for work. And we in San Diego had two of the nation's three largest S&Ls here in San Diego, and they went down.
Yeah.
And so there weren't a lot of banking jobs. And but I ended up with a company called GE Capital, and there I was managing a portfolio of commercial loans and leases, and then spent some time at Bank of America, and then a private investment firm contacted me and persuaded me to work for them. And what they were doing is they were investing in portfolios of non-performing real estate secured loans.
Yeah, we all remember those.
Yeah. And they were buying them on the cheap, and they would buy the portfolio of loans, and they would turn around and foreclose on the property. And then I was the guy that would go out and perform due diligence on the loan portfolios, help formulate a price, and then from there collect. And I got into hiring lawyers across the country to foreclose on these properties. And so we would look at taking the property, and then we would look at other assets of the borrower to try and collect and liquidate those as well to satisfy the underlying debt. And so I got exposed to a tremendous amount of litigation doing that.
Wow.
And
I can imagine. I mean, you're talking about the House of Cards, right? Back in the collapse, or are you talking about pre-collapse?
This is back in the 90s.
In the 90s, okay. So this
90s,
isn't even getting to the 2008, 2009 thing yet.
Yeah, well,
we're still back there.
Wow. We're still in the 90s. Okay.
Yeah, we're back in the 90s.
Okay, so that's good context. So you were doing this before most people know about the House of Cards and the mortgage meltdown of 08, 09. So you were already doing this a decade or more prior.
I was doing it in the collapse back in the 90s when that was taking place.
Yeah. Man.
And but that employer, that investment firm, actually paid my way through law school.
Wow.
And so I was working for them by day, and I went to law school at night. And then I graduated law school in 99, passed the bar exam first time out, and then I started getting contacted by real estate investors and others looking to place work with me, and I haven't looked back.
Wow.
So was that the thing that kind of pivoted you into going to law school, or what was the catalyst for you going, I'm going to be a lawyer now?
I remember I was in a performance review with my boss at the time, and law school came up in discussion, and turned into they buy and I agreed to fly.
I wonder how many people listening and watching go, I was in a performance review. Like, me too. I was getting evaluated out of the assessment. I was like, I don't want to do this career.
Well, first of all, I love the experience. That is quite the resume. So
Yeah.
that is
Thank you.
pretty darn cool.
Yeah, and it serves me well to this day. So I've been involved in litigation dating back to I think 92.
Wow.
Man,
That's,
okay.
That's when my son was first born.
That's
Oh, is there?
that is awesome. So you're going 30 on years now at this point.
Yeah, as a lawyer, it was 2000.
Yeah.
And then prior to that, I was the client. I was the one hiring the lawyers across the country.
Pretty darn cool.
So you've seen a lot of things in that time.
Oh, yeah.
So
Just a little.
No, I'm sure there's some things you can't say. Maybe there are some you can. Obviously respecting the what is it, client lawyer privileges,
Attorney-client,
attorney-client privileges.
Yeah.
See, I don't even know how to say it. So what is something that you think that would be is interesting that kind of stands out? You go like, oh my gosh, this one situation happened, or this one thing occurred that you would never believe. Like, oh.
Well, I'll give you some crazy stories in a little bit, but I'll start when we was talking about the crisis of between 06 and 09ish, thereabouts.
Yeah.
One of the things that I noticed during that time period is the number of people that surfaced that were trying to help borrowers or homeowners that were in foreclosure, and I found it offensive and alarming how reckless and irresponsible these people were, and they continue to be out there to this day. I encountered one just earlier this week that are out there trying to help homeowners. Reason I say that they're reckless and irresponsible is what is it the banks want when you reach out to them for a loan modification or for help? What is the first thing the bank asks for?
Do you have a job? You have to show extenuating circumstances, right? I don't have a job, and so I can't pay for it.
Well,
even if you do, they're not even trying to help.
What's the first thing that the bank asks
Yeah.
for when you're going into foreclosure?
Yeah, or when you reach out to the bank and say, "Hey, work with me. I need help." What does the bank want to know?
Why do you need help?
Well, they want to know: do you have your tax returns?
Oh,
Do you have bank statements?
Sorry, I
Do you
couldn't
have pay
answer
stubs?
it.
Yeah, start giving me paperwork.
Why are they
Yeah.
asking for that?
Yeah.
So think of it this way too, because I've worked in credit and collections. When you apply for a loan,
Right.
what did the bank?
They ask for all that same stuff.
They
Yeah.
are all the same stuff. Are they asking for that stuff because they're trying to be helpful? What is the bank's objective after they originate the loan? Got to look at it that way.
Yeah.
What's their objective after
To sell that loan. Unless they're portfolioing their own servicing, they're trying to get rid of that loan.
How do you make the loan attractive?
Yeah.
If you're going to sell it on the secondary
Yeah,
market?
low risk. Yeah, low risk, highest reward, that kind of thing.
You're going to get whoever buys it, the investor, is going to get their money.
That's right.
They're going to get their money. And how do you make a loan attractive to an investor?
Yeah.
You show them that they're going to get their money.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Get documents.
Look at all this stuff that this borrower has that you can take from them by force if they don't perform.
Wow.
That's how you do it. I have never, ever participated in a meeting within the banking industry or as a lawyer representing them where we were sitting around talking about ways to help the homeowner.
Dang.
I have never seen that.
Wow.
I can tell you that they had the way they train the asset managers is when you walk into your superior's office and you say, "I've got somebody that's in arrears," they say, "What's the property worth? How much do they owe? What additional collateral do they have? Do they have other assets that we can turn to satisfy the debt? Does California's anti-deficiency laws prohibit us from suing them on a deficiency?" These are the discussions that take place when somebody doesn't perform on a loan.
Wow.
Any loan.
Wow.
Not just a home loan, it's any loan.
Sure. They're saying open the coat, show me everything.
Oh yeah, and then the first thing they do is they hire somebody like me.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's what happens.
Just crazy.
Wow.
So the reason I say it was alarming back in 06, 09, and when I see people trying to help homeowners, the worst thing you could do is if you have assets or income that can be liquidated or turned to for satisfaction of a debt, the last thing you want to do is share that information with somebody that's going to turn to those assets and income
that wants to take
to
it away
satisfy
from
their
you.
debt.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I just find it horribly offensive when I encounter people that are encouraging people to make financial disclosures.
Because so let's talk about that, because the reason is they probably believe the opposite is, well, let's show them that we can make this right. Let's show them that you can do X, Y, or Z, or meet the terms of whatever they're asking, right? Is that the intention that just has an ill will behind it, or what do you?
Well, you can't focus on the intention. You have to.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
You have to focus on what's the other guy's objective.
Yeah.
And what alternatives do they have to meet the objective? And if their objective is to get paid as much of the money that's owed to them as possible,
Yeah.
how is it what you're about to do with them going to serve your objective? Or
Right.
is it going to make it more appealing for them to do something different? So, for example, if you're behind on a loan and let's say the collateral is worth way more than the loan balance, you haven't got a prayer.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Because what's the best alternative to the lender
For you to
paid?
lose it.
To take it back and
Yeah.
keep the equity themselves.
Yeah.
Put it on the market,
Exactly.
sell it, bulk it, whatever.
Yeah, so when I have discussions with borrowers and their lawyers, when we're foreclosing, I'll pose the question. I get paid in full if I take the house, or if I take the apartment complex, or
Wow.
whatever the collateral is. I get paid in full. What do you have to offer me that's better than that alternative?
The answer is nothing, right?
Yeah, the answer's nothing.
The answer's nothing.
The
Yeah.
answer's nothing. The answer's nothing.
That's
I mean,
just crazy.
but that's the reality of it.
Yep.
And that's what's actually happening in the real
Wow.
world. Anybody that comes in with something different is just they're operating in a world that doesn't exist.
So how much of that are you still doing like right now? I mean,
In
I know we're talking
foreclosure?
about timing. There was some in the 90s, some in the 08,
yeah.
09 thing, but
So
how much is that happening
we went
now?
quite a few years without seeing much foreclosure activity. Foreclosure activity is definitely up today.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in the single family owner occupied space. It's in the single family non-owner occupied. So these are mom and pops that own rental properties that aren't able to collect because of California's interference with property rights, all these landlord-tenant laws.
Yeah.
We need to talk about that. But go ahead.
We'll talk about that. But it's interfering with the mom and pops' ability to meet the debt service on these rental properties
Right.
they have, and the lenders are now foreclosing.
Yeah. We could see that. I actually was talking with an investor, and they had purchased a property in front of SoFi, big building. And, with the whole moratorium of the COVID, tenants didn't have to pay a rent. They were protected.
Oh,
and I think they just lifted that, if I'm not mistaken, only a few months ago in LA.
Well, okay, so there's multiple issues here. Since 2019, they started passing all sorts of laws regulating the landlord-tenant relationship. COVID added to that. So these laws, not all of these laws were created as a consequence of the pandemic. Some of them predated the pandemic. But, so for example, if you want to take your property off the rental market and you had a tenant in the property for over a year, depending upon where the property is located, the landlord's required to pay relocation assistance.
Sure.
to
Like
the
cash for
tenant.
keys kind of situation.
Well,
almost.
not cash for keys.
Oh, it's
depending
not the
upon-
same?
No.
It's not just called something different? I thought it was the exact same function. It's not?
No, cash for keys is where you're paying somebody to voluntarily vacate the property.
Right. I guess I just was defining that as the same thing as, hey, here's a relocation assistance. Go get out of here. But that's not what it is.
No.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no.
Hey,
Just
all
get
right,
out of
I'm
here,
learning.
huh, Andy?
Learning. Well, I mean, essentially, it's pay to leave. I'm going to
Yeah.
pay you to leave and vacate the process. But if you're the owner, it's cash for keys. Well, it's not cash for
No, well,
keys.
I
right?
can
So-
tell you stories about
Yeah.
that too. But what's happening in that space is the tenant and the taxpayers are now providing tenants with access to lawyers.
Wow.
Now it's means tested, but in large part you're seeing a lot of lawyers surfacing that are representing tenants,
course.
and they're using these laws quite frankly, candidly, and sorry if I offend people out there. These lawyers are extorting these property owners for money. It's a shakedown. We're encountering we have a demand right now in our office for one of our clients who owns a single family residential property, where the lawyer's demanding $100,000.
Wow.
And our client hasn't evicted the property, hasn't initiated any eviction or anything.
Wow.
It's just out of the blue. Boom, a demand comes in from this lawyer. And then when you talk to the lawyer on the phone, the lawyer's saying, well, listen, I won't interfere and make life difficult for your client if my client gets a check for $100,000.
Wow. They're just looking to tap into that equity, huh? We all know you have equity in there, so
it's ugly. It is ugly.
Wow.
And then those homeowners, the average cost of an eviction prior to 2019, it was around $1,500, $3,000 thereabouts. Today, the average cost of an eviction is $17,000 to $18,000.
Oh my.
What?
So inflation's gone up on that too.
Well, it's because of all the litigation.
All the
arising
costs.
from
Yeah,
it.
litigation
Yeah.
cost. Yeah.
And we're
That
now
is crazy.
You're now seeing some property owners looking at $200,000
Oh
in
my
legal
God.
fees.
Okay. I have a question for you at this point, because I'm hearing you, and I'm hearing a very specific approach angle to the problem. Are they behind all of this? Are they trying to get rid of landlords in California? I mean, is there a concerted effort being made? Maybe it's a silent effort, or maybe it's publicized, and I just don't know. Because this seems like it's very obstructive for people to want to be in the real estate ownership position and have tenants and be a landlord and be a mom and pop owner of multiple properties.
That's a good question. And here's my response to it is, it's hard to imagine that the men and women in Sacramento could be that stupid. So if they're not that stupid,
Right.
then they are. It is very much volitional.
Right.
But but let's give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Then it's just reckless irresponsibility. The men and women in Sacramento pass laws regulating subject matter they have no life experience.
Well, it's kind of like it's either you're stupid or you're doing it on purpose. Both are bad.
Yeah,
Both are
exactly.
bad. It's just a question of degree.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
It's just a question of degree. Yeah.
Okay. So you actively are seeing this this landscape change in front of us, where the costs have become much more exorbitant. It's hard to get people out. So this whole relocation fee. So you're explaining to me it's not cash for keys. So tell me what the difference between the relocation fee is and that.
So what relocation fees is? It's basically a check. So if a landlord, if a tenant has been in a property for over a year and the landlord is terminating the tenancy for reasons other than cause, for non-payment of rent or something of that nature. In other words, they're going to sell the property, or they're going to move back into the property. They're going to put the kids in the property. They're going to rehabilitate the property, something of that nature. They have, in order to terminate the tenancy, they have to pay the tenant relocation assistance.
Wow.
The manner in which that relocation assistance is taken care of or addressed varies from municipality to municipality. And so there's a statewide requirement, and in addition to that, the local municipalities can make it even worse.
Wow.
So for example, in LA, I think in LA it's 3 months. 3 months rent, market rent, not contract rent.
Got it.
Okay, hold on. That's different, because if you're paying your rent's $2,000, but market rent is $3,500, they're getting 3 months of market rent.
Right.
Woo!
And it doesn't end there. They have to pay to move them, cover the moving costs, storage.
Like a rental truck? Or are you talking like the 2-man movie, a rental truck plus movers plus packers and that whole thing?
Yep.
No.
Yep. And
Did you hold on? Did you know all this?
I'm moving.
Well,
That's
and-
all
What
I
did
know.
you? I didn't know. I did not know all this.
In
No.
addition to that, some municipalities have like little boards that you have to go to and seek permission.
This is
in
unreal.
order to terminate the tenancy.
Wait,
Unreal.
like an HOA? You mean like an HOA, a local HOA, or just
No,
some
this
sort
is a
of
municipal
community board?
governmental entity.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about in the actual community itself. You have to get the permission.
Municipality, whether it be
Got
a
it.
city or a county, correct.
Well,
Wow.
Elliot, we're here in Chula Vista in San Diego. So do you know what the
Chula Vista?
Is it-
Chula Vista. We're still trying to figure out everything that's going on with Chula Vista, but Chula Vista, I think it was in March of this year, came out with some local ordinances that are now prescribing
Interesting.
relocation assistance, and it's not the same for everybody.
Yes.
So it depends upon what type of demographic you're in, will dictate how much There is a prescription for the wording of the notices, the type of notice that needs to go out, the timing of the notice. There are penalties associated with it if you don't comply. And that's here in Chula Vista.
Wow.
And this is one of the reasons why the cost of an eviction has gone up, is
Now
because
we
the lawyers are having to reread the law all the time because new law is constantly coming out.
Wow.
And we can make money on that, so why not? You know?
Wow.
Well, and
that's
that's
fascinating.
That's the thing about it.
I mean, it's sad and it's fast. It's saddenating. Fascinating?
Yeah, yeah. 1500 to 1820.
Well,
that's crazy, incredible.
we as a society should be offended.
Yeah.
We should be up in arms. It's horrible what's happening out there, and it doesn't end there, because what
oh
happens
God,
is
there's more.
It's real bad. We have an additional client base that's profiting off of it,
Of course.
because a lot of them mom and pops can't afford or are ill prepared to pay lawyers to jump in and solve these tenant problems, and so you're getting corporate America stepping in, who do have access to lawyers on staff or on some sort of special discounted pricing,
Retainer or whatever.
Correct, and then they come in and they solve the problems, but they're picking up these properties from these mom and pops on the cheap.
Are you intentionally not naming any names that I might be?
Oh yeah, I can't name any of these guys' names, but
There's one
happening.
that rhymes. The synonymous word is stone, and the color is very dark.
Yeah.
Black, someone black, someone. Yeah.
No, it's not.
I know you can't name names. I'll name names.
Yeah.
Black Rock.
No, there a lot of them are not big corporations. They're just local investor groups that are coming together, and they're taking advantage. And,
Alan, thanks for sharing all this great news. Like, I didn't understand it. I have a couple of properties, and luckily I've had a great relationship with the tenants, and they're not thinking of moving anytime soon, but now I'm understanding it'll be 3 months, whatever the market rents out, I'll have to hire 2 men move you.
You got to look at the local municipality. It may not be that bad, or it may be worse. You have to look at where the property's at.
But at least it gives us some type of idea, of what to expect, and, what to be paying attention to if you are a landlord.
Keeping this in mind too, I hate to say this, but you go to a lawyer if you're a landlord and you want to terminate the tenancy, because a lot of these ordinances have attorney's fees provisions built into them, as do the lease agreements.
Oh, wow.
So if they do lawyer up and you lose,
you're going to pay that too.
Other side, you have to pay not only your lawyer, but the other side's lawyer.
Wow. Insult to injury, salt on the wound, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. This is great. I mean, hey, this is great information. So what is a story that you've done in the history of you being an attorney that really stands out?
I'll share
this is what changed everything.
I'll share two stories with you.
All right.
One's
please.
comedic in nature, one's scary in nature.
Oh man.
I'll start with the comedy. We had an investor that was out there purchasing single-family residential properties, and he was doing fix and flips. And he purchased a property from an 85-year-old gentleman, and the property closed escrow.
Okay.
My client was out the money. After paying off the encumbrances on the property, the older gentleman walked away with about $350,000 in cash, but he didn't get out of the property. And so my client was trying to get him out of the property, couldn't get him out of the property. And so this went on for about probably 4 weeks post-closing of escrow. Couldn't get him out of the property. He struck a deal with him to pay, said, I'll pay you money to help move you. Let's just work this out. Well, it kept dragging on. And then the client comes to see me, and I'm thinking, something's wrong here. Something's up. So I just went to the Register of Actions for the Superior Court to see whether or not this old man's up to no good.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I saw that he filed a lawsuit against my client. The lawsuit was alleging financial elder abuse. He was alleging that my client, this went through an escrow, mind you, he was alleging that my client never paid him for the house and took his house. And he was asking for the house back. So effectively, because my client was out the money. It went to an escrow.
Wait. So the $350,000 had already been transferred.
Well, it was more than $350. That was the equity portion.
Or that was the equity portion. Okay.
Of the property.
Okay.
If memory serves, like $1 million.
Okay, but also title transferred, like the official
Title
deed had been
transferred,
recorded. The whole.
Yep,
Okay.
yep,
Okay.
yep.
All right.
Yep. And so not only did we see the lawsuit, but we saw that there was a hearing in court the very next day. And then so we saw that the hearing was an ex parte application where the attorneys for the old man were trying to get a prejudgment writ of attachment to take money out of my client's bank account.
Oh my.
Pre-trial.
Yeah, pre-trial.
Wow.
My client wasn't even served with the lawsuit. My client didn't even know about the lawsuit until we brought all this to his attention. I said, "This is what this old guy is trying to do to you." And so then we showed up and we were able to prevent the prejudgment writ of attachment from issuing. But then we started getting into the case, and he was represented by these two other elderly ladies that kept going into court saying, "Judge, he's a widower. His wife recently died. They stole his money," and saying, none of it was true. Well, it's true that his wife had died.
Yeah.
Right.
It was true that he was elderly, but it went through escrow. We could clearly demonstrate that our client funded the property. So the question is, what the hell was going on?
Yeah.
Right.
Why would somebody do this?
Well, right.
Well, we come to find out. We've come to find that we found the old man's daughter, and we reached out to her and said, "Hey, what's going on here?" And we come to find out she hated her father.
Oh my goodness.
Hated her father.
Oh my gosh.
I guess when he was a recent widower, while his wife was on her deathbed, he was visiting the ladies of the night over on El Cajon Boulevard and pissed off the family. After he cashed out from the sale of the house, the money was spent.
No.
And guess where the money was spent?
No, it was not.
It was.
Oh my.
It was.
Well, somebody had a real good
What?
time.
It was.
Wow, that is an interesting
And
story.
so the daughter was the one who set this off.
Well, we found out why she was mad, and then we discovered thereafter that he had moved some prostitutes into his home.
Oh my
Get out of
goodness.
here.
Yeah, and then with one of their pimps, and they proceeded over the course of 6 weeks or so to
Wait,
drain
you
the
said
guy.
you had two stories, a comedy and a scary
that's the
one. Which
that's
one
the
is this
comedy.
one?
This is the
This
comedy one.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't make that up. That's pretty
To me,
outrageous.
that sounds kind of scary.
You know, that is, I've never heard of a situation until a few months ago that actually just happened. I want to say it was in Riverside area where the seller, the buyers closed the deal. It came out on the news and everything. And the
What?
seller just didn't want to vacate the property. And the buyers were going, "Hey, you know what? You got to get out." And the person, they brought the police over and they're like, "No, you can't. You're actually going to have to get a restraining order on the buyers who already own the home." And they've
What?
gone through escrow. They've gone through title. I don't know if you heard that story.
Right, and we hear stories.
Yeah,
that
it was
you
like just
mentioned.
8 months ago. It was in the media. The old owner that was no longer the owner, he cut the water, so he's not even, your lawn is already brown, so it was like, it took them I want to say 8 months to a year for them
Wow.
to fight and finally get the owner, but
Oh,
they
yeah.
had to go through court
yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the buyers had a restraining order. They couldn't come close to the property.
That they owned.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So this is crazy.
This is
so
yeah,
Your
crazy.
story's funny.
Oh, it's
interesting. The
sad
man
and
put his
funny.
money to
It's-
work.
It's a dark comedy.
Yeah, it's a dark comedy.
Dark
Very
comedy. Yeah. Put his money to work. Really? Okay.
Unreal.
All right.
Unreal.
Take us home with your scary story,
a
Alan.
couple scary stories. One was recent, about within the last year. With all these landlord-tenant laws that
Yeah.
are coming into play, you're starting to see more and more property owners that can converting their properties into vacation rentals. Mm-hmm. Okay, so vacation rentals are becoming. Why are people finding vacation rentals attractive? Well, one reason is they're, depending upon the rental, they're cash flowing. They're
Yeah.
making money. But separate and apart from that, landlord-tenant laws, the traditional landlord-tenant laws
Yep.
don't apply.
Right.
And these renters, if you will.
Is that what it is?
They're called lodgers.
Mm-hmm.
And so the property owner is not subject to the landlord-tenant regulations when it comes time to a lodging. And so my client had a vacation rental, in a sky-rise condo complex. And he put a lodger in there. Originally, it was going to be like three nights. Well, that went on for over a year. It took my client over a year to get him out. We were the third law firm.
Pay for 3 nights, get the remaining 362 for free.
Well, this is another example of why it's getting expensive, because we were the third law firm to get involved. The first two were treating him as a tenant rather than as a lodger.
Got it.
And we were, which means there had all these regulations and restrictions because it was because of the pandemic and things. And but we treated him as a lodger, which is what he was, and we're able to get him out on that basis. But our client so here's what was scary about it. The lodger was a drug addict, and he had a bunch of drug users in the property. They were terrorizing the other neighbors. They were armed. They had guns. They had machetes. They were scaring the other property owners.
What?
The HOA was coming down on our client. And then one of the events that occurred was as we sued and were getting closer to gaining possession, they decided to plug up all the toilets and the sinks and let the water run, and it caused over $100,000 in damage, not only to our client's unit,
but all the surrounding
units.
Wow.
No way.
And I'm assuming at that point in time, your client is the one that's responsible for that.
Mm-hmm.
Unreal.
And then he didn't have insurance, and so that created a problem.
What?
He didn't have insurance, which is another problem in and of itself.
Oh, wow.
But where it got scary is when we sent the sheriffs out. The sheriff, I think it was approximately 6-7 sheriff's deputies, enforced the writ of possession, and they entered with a battering ram with guns.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm sure.
They knocked down the door, and when they got into the unit, everything was torn up. There was everything was spray painted with murals and everything else. The furniture was all trashed, and we think they were using meth because they're of some of the behavior.
Course. They had to
went
be
into
something.
They started digging.
There's a bunch of microwaves and spoons all on the floor.
Oh yeah. Well, they started digging through the drywall on one of the walls, trying to get into the neighbor's unit.
God,
no way.
God.
Crazy.
They probably thought they were in prison, just trying to make a hole into the net.
You're like, forgetting there's a front door? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that stuff
wow.
happens.
What?
Drugs.
Yeah, if you can believe that.
No, I mean, it's just, here's what you see things like this, or you read about some crazy, wacky story. It's so different hearing you tell it firsthand, like, to us here on the show. And just.
You know that my office, I used to have an office in this complex.
Yes, you were saying
so
that.
there was something scary in this complex where your office is.
Wow.
As well. And so I had a client that owned a bunch of raw land out in Potrero.
Okay.
And there were squatters on the land, and there were a group of white supremacists.
Oh, my
that were out
goodness.
there.
We still had those?
Oh, they're out there. They're out there. Well, there's some comedy with that one, too. But, the guys with swastika tattoos and stuff like that. But out on that, we were sue them for ejectment to remove them from the property. It turned out they were running a drug operation out there. They're growing marijuana amongst other things.
Yeah.
They had constructed a compound. They had moved a bunch of RVs and mobile homes out there. They erected a fence. They got sandbags, and they put these defensive positions. They had guns.
Whoa.
They had constructed a warehouse out there to store the drugs. And it was off the road. It wasn't off a main road. It was way out there. They booby-trapped the dirt roads that went out there. They had fish wire that went across, so if you're on an ATV, you hit that.
Oh, my God.
But so we got them off the property, but they were so angry that we interfered with their drug operation. They showed up here. And in one of my offices, and fortunately it was like 7 a.m. They were trying to get into into my office.
Wow. Yeah, because your address, your information's there. defending them. Oh my, you got some good stories, Alan.
Wow.
I tell you.
Yeah.
And we could stay here all day just listening to these. I'm just
I
curious to see like what's next.
I already know we need to have Alan back. So this is not
Absolutely.
going to be Alan's last time here, because I know there's more stories. There's also more for us to learn. But you're right. Let's talk about in wrapping this up. What should people be reaching you for? What is something right now that you're like, yes, I'm taking this in. We're helping people with these kind of situations. What is that? And then how can people reach you?
Anybody, we primarily represent entrepreneurs and investors. So if somebody is out there in the that's a property owner on the investment side, or is making loans secured by real property, those are people that are our niche client base.
Perfect.
We love banks. We love SBA lenders. Come back on another day, talk about how SBA loans work. Those are our clients, especially the investors out there that are looking for properties with problems, because so many properties have problems now.
Yeah. I'm learning. I probably learned maybe 4 or 5 new problems just today in our conversation. Some of them I already was like I kind of heard about that or whatever. But now you're bringing clarity to it. I'm like, wow, there's a lot more problems than I thought there were. And I already thought there were plenty to start with.
No cash for keys, Andy.
No cash. Yeah, I guess no cash for keys. Something
real
else.
quick on that, though, that can backfire on you as well, because we had a client pay cash for keys, $5,000 for cash for keys. The one person signed it. They paid him the cash for the keys, and all of a sudden, well, my brother's in the property too.
Oh,
so is
my
grandma. So are my parents.
Oh.
So is my cousin. They all want their $5,000, or they're not getting out.
So Alan, let me go
Whoa.
back. Let me ask a question on that. So if they're not on the lease, and let's just say it's Juan on the lease, just to as example purpose here, but there's a brother there and there's a grandma there. Are they entitled to
Yeah,
anything?
you have when you do the notices to terminate the tenancy, you're going to have to, if you know who they are, name them as well. If you don't know who they are, there's a procedural process that you need to follow in terms of making sure that they have notice. Because if you don't, it can delay things quite a bit.
Wow.
Good to know. That's good to know.
That's great.
How many
That's
investors
great.
do we know? We continually always go to these meetups with
Yeah.
investors, and a lot of them I don't even think they actually know. These.
Well, a lot of them don't.
Well, I can imagine that a lot of them may not know, just because it happens by firsthand experience or by secondhand. You hear it from a conversation like this. Oh, did you know this, or this has happened? Like, that's a lot of learning gets accumulated that way, of course. But I'm willing to bet that the majority of people either have maybe only heard about this, but not with the level of detail that you've seen firsthand, or maybe not even experienced it yet themselves. But this is really this is a really important conversation, as it turns out.
Very.
Yeah.
That's incredible. No, it's good to know. Even with the lodgers, right? There, so many people are doing with the Airbnb, and they just don't know the rules. And I really think something like this could be very challenging. There was actually a story here in Beverly Hills where a person went in there to rent it, and she's still there.
Oh,
This is just like last month.
Well, we're seeing too a lot of the vacation rentals, they're subletting when they're not supposed to. So you get a lot of people that everybody's the vacation rentals, make some money doing that, and they don't take into consideration that you signed a lease yourself to rent this property that you're now trying to convert into a vacation rental. Do you have the right to sublet? I mean, do you have the right to do that? And a lot of times they don't, and then they get into trouble because of that.
The whole rental arbitrage, huh?
Oh, it's nutty.
Yeah,
A lot of
this is
a
just
lot of
crazy.
issues.
This is just crazy. So, where can our listeners find more about you?
EnochsLaw.com. That's
Okay.
ENOCHSLAW.com.
Perfect.
You'll see a picture of a handsome gentleman. That's me. And our contact information is right there.
That's awesome.
ENOCHSLAW.com. Yeah.
Perfect. This has been incredible. We can't thank you enough for sharing all this wonderful information, with our audience, and it's just great. It's just great to knowledge is power, right? When applied. And I think now that we understand this, it can certainly be applied. So,
Yeah. Well, Alan, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
We're going to have to, I'm already publicizing it now. We are going to have you back to tell us more stories.
Yes.
Because I think the stories are going to sell this entire episode. Not the questions. It's going to be the stories. But we'd love to have you come back again. share some more insights, and then we can talk more about like, what are some maybe things up on the horizon that people might need to think about when it comes to being these investor groups you're talking about and owning property and what that means for the use case for tenant law moving forward. So I'd love to have you back, but thank you so much for joining us for the Friends of Mortgage
Thank
Heroes.
you for having me. Appreciate it.
Hope that was enjoyable and fun for you as it was for us.
Yeah,
most
we're having
definitely.
fun with these. These stories are just phenomenal, and having that experience, that history of it, it just makes it like, whoa, I wanted to just, you kept saying your story. I was like, what's next? What happened next?
Oh, yeah.
I was just so curious, and so I'm just looking forward to having you once again and go through that.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching the Friends of Mortgage Heroes. We will see you next time with some more amazing stories.
That's right.